Sandra all the time is here with the cold hard truth. She's the ears and the eyes for me and you. Every day, everyone want to hear from Sandra. And every time on the air, she's getting better. So tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your mama, call Sandra in the morning and in the evening. They always calling Sandra. And when they start fighting, they calling Sandra. And
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth. Welcome to another episode with more truth-telling, more problem-solving, and of course, more tea spilling than ever before. Sit back, students, grab your tea and turn up the volume because class is now in session. Call in at 936-2626 because your voice matters. Share your opinion on issues that matter the most to you. Good morning, K-Man. Happy Tuesday. Well, for me, it's kind of like Monday part 2, but we're going to kick off a wonderful show for you guys today. I know you guys are super excited because we've got some good news. I just had somebody message me, good morning, Miss Stephanie. She's like, please tell me you're on this morning. Yes, we are here. So I'm sending the links to everyone on the news channel. Don't forget, folks, if you're not yet subscribed to the news channel, this is an excellent opportunity for you to do so. It's super, super easy. Just go to your WhatsApp, I can send you the direct link. That's kind of the easiest way to do it. Or you can just look for the barcode. We posted it numerous times on social media. We'll post it again today just so you can have it handy. Scan that barcode, click on the link. It'll say, do you want to follow? Say yes, you want to follow. And then that's it. You should also turn on notifications to make sure that you know every time that we send out a message. So the great thing about the channel is in one location, you get all of the notifications about everything that's going on. So you get all the show links every single morning. What else do you get? You get every single news article that's posted. We are on Instagram Live, Facebook Live in the mornings, and of course YouTube and Bobo 89.1. And then sometimes we'll send out like traffic alerts and stuff that it doesn't always make it on social media, but we'll say, hey, we understand there's some kind of traffic in this area, so just kind of be cautious so that you are very much aware of what areas to avoid. So lots of great stuff, folks, available on the CMR WhatsApp channel. So it's a great way. I think we're pushing like 800 people now that have already signed up for it. So make sure that you're constantly in the know. All right, so we're back in the saddle. It is Tuesday, and you guys will remember that every single Tuesday, it is Medical Rundown Tuesday. They took a little summer break, summer sabbatical. People need a little vacation time, a little bit of off time, but they are back in full swing. So we are tickled pink to have two of our shining stars from Health City, Cayman Islands in the studio this morning. And they've got so much stuff that's going on. So let's welcome Dr. Benoit. First and foremost, good morning, Dr. Benoit. How are you?
Good morning, Sandra. I'm very good. Thank you. How are you?
Yes, I'm very good. Thank you so much. And we also have Mr. Shamari Scott, who, as we all know, not only is here as a representative of HCCI, but he's also a sports correspondent. So he is always keeping us updated on what he is doing to keep active and keep fit, because, folks, that's an important part of just your overall health. So, make it a priority. Dr. Benoit is there if you need him, but quite honestly, he'd rather not see you. He'd rather you take as many preventative actions as you can to stay healthy. So good morning, Shamari.
Good morning, Sandy. Good morning, Cayman Islands. And we didn't take a break during the summer. Usually people take a break and they're traveling all over. So we try and choose the times during the year when the majority of people have their feet on the ground. We'll be listening, but by popular demand, it seems as if even if people are traveling, they're listening and they wanted to know where Health City was. But
absolutely,
we're back. And before we even start, you mentioned it. When it comes to sports, guess what? The NFL season has started. This past weekend is season day, week 1, and you will see I have my Miami Dolphins cup and my Miami Dolphins shirt. Because, we did what we were supposed to do and we won our first game. So we're now 1-0. And predictions for this year, we're going to go 14-3, and we're going to be top of the division going into the playoffs. So
wow,
one down, another 13 to go.
Well, we love your dedication to it. We know that you you play basketball in the over. Is it over 40 or over 50 league? I'm not trying
to. Sandy.
I think it's over 40. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Sandy. If this was the former me, I would make a comment. But
I know you're committed. I know that you are committed at any rate to remaining healthy. So that's absolutely fantastic. And when we had we're going to talk about the Camana Bay grand opening here today, but when you did the official grand opening ceremony, of course, I had an opportunity to sit down with Dr. Shetty, which was, highlight of my career, and speak to him. And I was listening to his words very, very carefully, even when he was doing his keynote speech, and he said, this whole concept of prevention being better than cure, which we all know, but he gave some real-time tips on exactly some of the things that we could do every single day to just ensure that we keep moving, we're keeping active, just improving the overall health and wellness of an entire community. So I thought that those were such salient points that were actually made. And I got to see a first glimpse of the location there at Cayman Bay. I was blown away then, but I want our listeners to know that yesterday I got to do another tour because now has it been a month since you did the grand opening ceremony?
Yeah, it
About,
was on July 11th. Yeah.
yeah, so more or less. And now it is, more equipment is in place. It's really coming together. And I got to see upper levels, which we didn't see in the initial grand opening. And can I just tell people honestly, I was just so impressed and so blown away by everything that's going to be available at this facility. So we're going to go through it. It looks huge, and I know it's Shamari and Dr. Benoit keeps telling me, Sandy, it's an optical illusion because the Health City location is actually slightly bigger. But wow, it's you guys have done a phenomenal job. So let me congratulate the entire team, Dr. Shetty, Dr. Benoit, all of your head management team, of course, you, Shamari, all really made this such an amazing vision. So the expansion of Health City Cayman Islands into the Cayman Bay area now means that people on the west side of the island, so the West Bay Road, West Bay Quadrant, even Georgetown, because Georgetown is literally right there off the bypass, now have access to a state-of-the-art, world-class facility. You guys must really feel proud about this project.
Oh, I have myself on mute. Definitely, San. And just to mention that we would have started 10 years ago, or past 10 years ago. April 2nd was when we would have started. 2014 would have been the start date. And over a decade, we've done a good job in building the brand of what Health City is, but not only of what Health City is, of what medical care is within the Cayman Islands that is now throughout the Caribbean and Central America, etc. When they think of the Cayman Islands, they not only think tourism, financial services, but now they're also starting to think healthcare, right? Healthcare services, and based on the levels of care and specialties that we're able to offer, like we would have spoken about in other instances previously, there were so many more air ambulances going overseas from Cayman. Now you have it in reversed, where we have air ambulances coming in. I was even having lunch recently, and somebody asked, they're like, I see a Turks and Caicos airline here every now and then. He's like, do you know what that is? And I was like, yeah. We have on a consistent basis patients coming from Turks and Caicos, sometimes by air ambulance, sometimes by a regular commercial charter. Other times we have so many of their persons and nationals here that there's a plane that comes to get them, to carry them back and forth. So that's just one example of how we've made our mark in the Caribbean. But it was all a part of Dr. Shetty's vision to showcase that you can have the highest quality care. And based on all of our medical outcomes, Dr. Benoit will be able to speak to it, but other physicians, chief medical officers, other hospital networks from the US to Canada to throughout the Caribbean, when they come and they actually are able to lift up the hood and see what we have in Health City East End, they marvel at the job we've been able to do. And it's just, once again, achieving Dr. Shetty's dream, which is to showcase that in a relatively high cost jurisdiction, we are able to offer the highest quality services for a price that's a fraction of what you would get it in the US, as an example. So we're excited that after a decade, that next wave of what we can do as Health City, we needed to be closer to 70% of where the population lives, like you mentioned, in Georgetown, West Bay Corridor, but also during the work day. Anywhere between 90 to 95% of the population is concentrated in this area. And we listened, right? So during COVID, we listened, and we heard when we had time on our hands, as we're a little bit slower, that that drive to get up to East End, even though it's just half an hour to 40 minutes, it still is a little bit of a barrier, especially if it's not life threatening and it's not of an urgent nature. It's a little bit of a drive. So for your consultations, I need to see a doctor, I'm not feeling well, or even if I need to have certain diagnostics, it became a little bit of a barrier for people to get up to us in East End. So that was part of why we wanted to put it a little bit closer to where the majority of people actually live, and not to steal Dart's line, but live, work, and play, right? A little bit
Yeah.
closer during the actual day, as well as we have a lot of the cruise lines that are here. You know, when they land, a lot of their crew members need diagnostics and the such, and we
Mhm.
have contracts with those cruise lines, and it wasn't a challenge, but you know, it becomes a little bit more difficult to actually treat those patients in East End and get them back to the ship before the ship leaves, right? Now, knock on wood, we're known as the only destination that has never missed a call. So we made sure through Grayson McLean, who is our transport manager, that we always manage it on the international team, that
Mhm.
we've never missed a port of call for those crew members that are doing either DK procedures and or diagnostics. But we wanted to make it even more so efficient for those medical tourists as well,
Mhm.
that are just coming for a day, and that was part of the reason why we decided to make the additional investment. So
Yeah.
10 years in, we're close to $300 million
Mhm.
worth of funds that we've invested in the Cayman Islands through brick and mortar, by having House City East End as well as now House City at Camana Bay. And I'll let Dr. Benoit
Yes.
speak to some of the new medical gaps that we'll be filling here in
Mhm.
Camana Bay. But we're just excited, um, that
Absolutely.
we're here. We're about to be open, and we're about to once again fill gaps within not only the Cayman Islands community, but the
Mhm.
wider Caribbean, Central America as well.
Mhm. Fantastic. All right, Dr. Benoit.
Yeah, as Shamari mentioned, very much excited, Sandra, uh, how we are going to change the landscape of healthcare, not only in the Cayman Islands, but in the entire region.
Mhm.
See, we have understood over the past decade what are the gaps that we have, that we are filling up with this new hospital. Shamari mentioned about the 70% of the population, the difficulty in reaching East End. That's one side. But the other side is uh, some of those areas that we are, as a country, not able to give the best to the patients, especially when it comes to emergency care.
Mhm.
So this is one area where time really matters, especially like when a polytrauma after accident, if somebody has a head injury or a thoracic injury along with some bone fractures and crushed abdomen, these are the areas where the time matters, as well as the right expertise and the equipments and technology all together come to into play. And there is a time, see, sometimes somebody comes with pressure is very low, you may not be able to get necessary investigations to find out what's all going wrong inside the body, because to get a CT scan or MRI, all those things, you have to move the patients, but they are not that fit or stable to get these investigations. These are the times we need something to save the patient, keep them alive till you get enough time to investigate. So these are
Mhm.
the most developing aspects of this trauma care, now called ECPR.
Mhm.
That means while you stabilize the patient, while you investigate, you may not get time to do all those things, but we should keep the patient alive. So
Mhm.
using this, the eCPR or ECMO CPR, we can save the this patient. Okay, put them on this very advanced technology and the machines. They will not die. Then you have enough time. Patient is stable. You can take them to the CT room or MRI or further investigation. Then you can treat them and save them. So
Mhm.
uh, I'm sure actually many lives we will be able to save by having this advanced, very advanced, I mean, at par with any best hospitals in the US or UK, that emergency room that we are going to have in the Kamana Bay Hospital. This is, I'm very much, if you ask me what is the most excited thing I am going to see in the new hospital, apart from all these other specialties like maternity or NICU, all those
Mhm.
are very important. But the life-saving impact that is going to have is this very, very advanced emergency care what we are going to have there with the expertise. See, this all the specialists are also very important. We can build a very beautiful building. We can, if you have money, you can bring all these fancy equipments and machines. But we need to have the right manpower expertise to coordinate with all those things, to treat, to diagnose and manage that patients. That's what we have. If we need a neurosurgeon to immediately operate on the brain injury, or we have a thoracic injury, whether injured the lungs or the heart or the liver or bone or anything. So we need all this team together within maybe 15 minutes to treat the emergency patient. So once we have this infrastructure, once we have the highest or the new innovations and technology and this manpower together, all these areas come together,
Mhm.
that will make these changes and save many lives that otherwise would have lost. So I'm very, very excited about that upcoming, the highest end of the spectrum of emergency care that we are going to bring to our country here.
Mhm.
Obviously, this the maternity care, the NICU, that again very sophisticated and state of the art. We can take the neonates of 24 weeks or 600 grams size weight and all those things. That is definitely going to make big change, not only again here, because our yearly around 900 births happening here, but the entire region, we do not have these kinds of advanced neonatology intensive care units. So we are definitely going to make a huge change the way healthcare is delivered, and
Mhm.
how that is directly going to impact the lives of our population here, Sandra.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to describe the level of sort of technology and just equipment that I was able to see even yesterday. Some of it still being installed. It's really quite phenomenal. The rooms are spacious, so we'll get into some of the details of exactly what people can expect at this facility. I was really blown away. Single rooms, extremely spacious. You know, the aesthetics of everything is just beautiful and amazing. Lots of space. I'm going to bring up and share some of the pictures that I took yesterday just so that our audience can kind of get a feel for what I saw. But there's nothing, I suppose, like experiencing it yourself. And we can talk about some of the details of exactly what people can expect there. But you talked about the launch of some new areas, which is super exciting. One being not just a maternity ward, but a neonatal intensive care unit, so the NICU, which is something that I'm very, very familiar with. I was sharing with both you and Shamari yesterday that our daughter was a preemie at 4 pounds 1 ounce, and it's something that no parent, I suppose, really knows how to deal with. And so having an amazing NIC unit and staff available at your disposal, you cannot put any sort of a price tag on that. I think any parent will tell you that they would give their last dollar to make sure that their child is going to be safe and healthy and have the best opportunities in life. And so my memories of the NICU, obviously at the hospital, were fond memories, but also it's just a very, very stressful time. So when I saw your facility yesterday, It brought back a lot of, memories, but it also made me see how you've improved upon what is currently available. And one of the most amazing things is the amount of space that you have, the bed space for mothers, how much room and how comfortable they can be within that space. There's more than enough room there for, if a husband wanted to stay there with his wife as she comes out of recovery from delivery. There's lots of space there. Comfortable TVs. I mean, blankets and pillows. Sometimes it's the simple things. But in the NICU itself, again, having the modern day equipment, all of the space that you're going to need, and of course, I know you're bringing on lots of experts for the new areas, especially. So, tell us a bit about that, and then I do want to talk about the emergency pavilion and critical care unit because I think, um, a lot of people don't quite understand how much Health City has to offer as it relates to ambulatory and critical care. So let's talk a little bit about the NICU and what your vision is for that particular unit and the maternity ward.
Yeah, Sandra, you have seen yesterday how we have designed this maternity and
Mhm,
NICU area. It's all in one space where we have the triage for the pregnant mothers coming, and next to that, the three spacious rooms where the family
mhm,
can stay with them, and the next door is the cesarean section operating room. So that operating room is not shared with any other operation, so that anytime is a cesarean section is required, no need to wait for the availability of the operating room, availability of the staff or doctors, anything actually. So if it's required, within 5 minutes it is done. So this
mhm,
and we are going to have 24/7 obstetrician within the hospital. We are going to have 24/7 neonatologist within the hospital, and the neonatal ICU, you have seen actually there is a 5 beds are there, and plus there is a family integrated separate room where the mother can stay with the baby, and
mhm,
they can feed, they can, all those things can be done in the neonatal ICU. And these equipments are all state of the art, most modern
mhm,
equipments that will give the best support for the organs of these babies, whether it is heart, whether it's lungs or anything. And again, some of those kids will have, I'm not telling that diagnosis because it's not for the public, they may not understand. Sometimes they need, again, immediately after birth, they sometimes aspirate this meconium, and there's the only way that we can support is again put them on ECMO. So we have that facility. So we do not have to transport these kids to any advanced centers where these sophisticated technology is available and is not available currently on island.
mhm,
So again, as I told you, the way we design that area, everything, all these cesarean section operating room, the triage for this pregnant mother, their delivery suites, the neonatal ICU, all in one area, and all manned by 24/7 very highly qualified nurses, technicians, and the doctors, and with all this technology, advanced machines, and so this makes the area safe and the neonate safe, pregnant
mhm,
mother safe. So we are not going to lose time. We are not going to lose time by thinking of transferring these small little babies to overseas. All those
mhm,
things will add value to save lives.
mhm,
And and also to mention that from a cost perspective, when we would
Yeah.
travel the Caribbean, and they would ask, in regard to what are the gaps we'd be filling in the future,
mhm,
two that they always, well, there were three, but two that we could address. One was burns, but what we're not there yet in regards to having a serious burns unit, especially in the Eastern Caribbean, where with a lot of the oil and the such, there are accidents that happen and burn types of scenarios. But
Mhm.
the other one was from an oncology perspective, radiotherapy. Just
Mhm.
understanding the pricing that is typically out of the reach, or persons would use their lifetime maxes from an insurance perspective, or if they're paying out of pocket, they definitely couldn't afford it just because the pricing for radiotherapy from a cancer care perspective is so high. So
Mhm.
we met that one last March 2023, with the opening of the Gene Thompson Radiotherapy Center, which was more or less the first phase of our Health City at Camana Bay. But then the other component was the $1 million babies. And I was like, million
Mhm.
dollar babies? What are you talking about? They're like, yes, any child that we have to send
Mhm.
to the US from a NICU perspective is cost at minimum $1 million off the bat.
Mhm.
So we're going to be able to reduce that to a fraction of that cost. So
Mhm.
not only will obviously Cineco and local insurance and local parents benefit of having the same quality but a much reduced cost, the rest of the Caribbean has also been waiting for that, because at times, believe it or not, sometimes the solution is to do nothing if there's no insurance and if the government isn't in the position like the Cayman Islands government, where we can kind of afford to send people overseas to the US and other places. A lot of times the solution may be do nothing, right?
Mhm.
So now we've seen it where Dr. Benoit has been able to save babies and adults and other people who are in places that the option sometimes was to do nothing. They can afford what Health City is able to offer, and we can get them here and save lives. And now we're extending that to the premature babies that typically would have to go to the US, $1 million just to start. So
Mhm.
fulfilling Dr. Shetty's vision of giving access once again for our most precious young people that were just born and haven't even had a chance at life. Having this facility here is going to help so many other people, not only here locally, but in the Caribbean as well. And that's why we're also proud of being able to make that offer at Health City Cayman Islands.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's again, the cost of healthcare. And I must say, I probably don't use, my healthcare options because, still relatively healthy, of course, doing things, preventative things like the executive health check being so important to try to get a fix on your numbers and what areas you need to do what you can do, and make some improvements. I've never had any sort of major health concerns, but I can tell you that it's obvious that healthcare can be really expensive. I was talking about my experience again in the NICU, and that was a $30,000 bill for a month. And she was actually a healthy baby. There wasn't anything wrong with her per se, except that she was just really tiny and she had to spend time in the NICU. And I always thought to myself, my God, imagine if there was additional care that was needed. There was additional medical experts that had to be brought in to tend to her. So the base just for her to have a bed space in the NICU was 30 grand for a month. So it's something that you can appreciate how quickly uh, you know these things can spiral out of control in terms of the cost. And people are always concerned that if they have a medical emergency, they have a serious illness, that it's something that can bankrupt them and their families. So it's amazing to have affordable health care, but it's even more amazing to have top tier affordable health care, because they're
Mhm,
two very different things, right?
mhm.
And the level of care that is going to be offered, at Health City Cayman Islands, Camana Bay location will certainly be no, it's going to be on par for sure with Health City East End. But I think in
Definitely.
some respects, because of the additional services, you're really elevating it and it's going to be even better. So I did see a question here from a few of our listeners to the program. So Abby wants to know when it's going to actually open. So let's talk about this phased in approach, which when I heard you guys talk about this, I said, you know what? This is actually a good idea. Instead of trying to do it all, from day one, which can be a bit hectic, you're going to take your time and open the different services over a period of time. So maybe walk us through exactly how this will work.
Dr.
Shumari,
Benoit,
you
you
want
want
to?
to take that one?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, Dr. Benoit, you can obviously eh, jump in at any point in time, but it just made sense for us, especially being a process-driven organization, and with the technology and everything that we have there, from the new way to register online for appointments, as well as how we're trying to make it seamless, whereby patients, for instance, will come and actually be assigned to a room, and instead of, whereas previously in our establishment as well, you would have to go to various rooms. For the most part, we want to keep the patient central, and we have the physician and or nurses come to the patient in the room. So they're just different ways of making it more efficient that we're going about, that we want to test. So in the phase one, our outpatient services. So if you need to see a doctor for a scheduled appointment, you'll be able to schedule it, come in, see your physician. So a lot of what you would be doing at our current Camana Bay clinic, that's in Camana Bay proper, you will actually gain access to your physicians at Health City, at Camana Bay, the hospital, as well as the diagnostics that may be needed to start in phase one. Phase two will come quickly afterwards. So even though we're phasing it, it's not like it's going to be months in between. There are probably,
Oh, I think you muted
myself.
yourself.
Yeah,
There you go.
it's not like it's going to be months in between. It'll probably be a week, or
Hmm.
maybe a week and a few days before the other phase is open. So don't want people to think that it's going to be a long, extended period of time.
Hmm.
But in that second phase, that's when we'll have our cath lab open and our endoscopy services will be open. I'll let Dr. Benoit jump in now so that he can actually
Yeah.
give more details from a medical perspective for the other phases as well.
Yeah. So, as Shamari mentioned, the phases will be separated by not more than 1 to 2 weeks, and that is basically to give us some operational ease, make sure that there is everything is in place, and then go to the next phase like that. So, first phase, OPD and the diagnostic. Second phase, cath lab and all the endoscopies, upper GI and colonoscopies. And the third phase will be all daycare surgeries and elective surgeries. All specialties will be started in the third phase. So that means our entire operative service, then surgeries will be started in the third phase. And the fourth phase will be launching our emergency room, urgent care, and OBGY and NICU. So
Hmm.
once we start the first phase two, the last phase, the phase four, will be 4 to 6 weeks apart.
Hmm. Very nice.
Yes.
All right. So, Abby, that should answer your question. Glorine, good morning to you. She's asking about a radiologist, the availability of radiologists. I know this was a issue, Shamari, where there was some permitting or something that was kind of holding up the process. So, do we have any updates on that?
On, is this a urologist that
Yes,
they're, I think
a
please ask about a
urologist.
Yeah.
urologist?
Yes.
So should be urologist should be here in 4 weeks time, maximum 4 to 6 weeks time. It's
Okay.
already in the process of getting all these approvals and everything.
Okay. Very good. So, good morning to Miss Emma. Miss Bonnie is listening. Good morning, Miss Flora. Let me see, Miss Dawn. Any plans for pediatric neurologists to be based at the hospital?
See, we can have that pediatric neurologist, but the problem is it's a very highly subspecialized area.
Hmm.
We do not say these are all very experienced and expert people. When they come, they will not have that adequate volume to
Mm.
keep their skill sets to work. Actually, that is the problem. We have enough pediatric neurologists working in our parent organization in India, but we are going to have something different model for these very niche or subspecialized area, how we can bring on a regular basis, regular intervals to our hospital, our country here, so that their services could be available for our public here. It won't be uh, viable viable in the sense it won't be possible to get these pediatric neurologist or pediatric urologist, because the number will be very less. But we are thinking of bringing them at regular intervals so that they can come, and the follow-up will be much easier with our technology. Now it's not very difficult, but that's what we are looking into. So this pediatric neurologist also, we will be able to give them service, but not they are not going to station here throughout the year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so visiting specialists, and that
Yes.
that
Yes.
happens quite a bit on island. And as you said, the volume. I see someone asking a question here based on population figures. I think that Scott says, "What population figures is Health City Naranjan uh, basing their huge investments on?" So, Shamari, I don't know if you can answer this question, but I think he's trying to say that based on the population size, is there really, enough business here? And I think you've answered it already, kind of indirectly, when you talk about servicing neighboring countries, the Caribbean, and
Mhm.
even beyond, because now we see people coming from the U.S. and other places, Canada, for affordable healthcare.
No, definitely. And that's interesting. That would have been a question 10 years ago, right? When we first
Yeah.
made that major investment. But very quickly, persons who understand the healthcare makeup within the Cayman Islands realize how much leakage we have in regards to so many people going overseas. So even if you were looking at the Cayman Islands population in and of itself,
Mm-hmm.
what it would have been 10 years ago, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, the population has increased in a large proportion in the last 10 years in and of itself. We had a lot of expats within our population that at times would travel back home to get medical services. And even the fact that we weren't offering tertiary care services here, that's why there were hundreds of air ambulances leaving every month to carry persons overseas into the highest cost jurisdiction in the world, really, when it comes to healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
So just based on the local population figures, um, to stop that leakage and have more persons avail themselves of top-notch medical care here in the Cayman Islands was one strategy that would have worked. But outside of that, prior to COVID, 40% of our surgical procedures would have been from overseas. So you look at it, and half of what we would have been doing would have been based on international persons coming specifically for their medical services, for surgeries. And obviously COVID wreaked a little bit of havoc in regard to our medical services from a medical tourism perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So we really were open maybe 2 years after the rest of the world, which was fine. It worked for us here in Cayman, and we were happy to play a part of that. But we're building that base back to where it needs to be. And the medical services that we're offering at Health City Camana Bay, as Dr. Benoit would have mentioned, are newer services that are also filling gaps already here
Mm-hmm.
in the Cayman Islands, as well as gaps in the Caribbean and further afield for those persons to come in as well. The good news is that from a price perspective, even when you look at the fact that the government has shift, which is a standard health insurance fees, it caps the amount of insurance that for specific procedures that can be paid to any provider. And Health City doesn't balance bill, as they call it, charge more than that. And in
Mm-hmm.
cases we charge less, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if somebody was even looking at it to say, well, you're making that investment, population isn't large enough, are you charging more to make it up? The answer is no, right?
Mm-hmm.
um, but we're so efficient that when you look at the overheads of other like facilities in other countries that also have a high cost of doing business, or operating, we're actually a fraction of that cost based on the efficiencies that we have, based on the fact that we're backed by the second largest private healthcare facility in India. We get the benefit of purchasing power. We get the benefit of expertise. We get the benefit of quality of outcomes that actually are less expensive
Mm-hmm.
in the short and long run. So there are many different factors that allow us to be comfortable to make this investment. But once again, it also has to do with vision. If you were just to look at it the way it's always worked, Dr. Shetty wouldn't have made the investment in the first instance. But
Mm-hmm.
because he had a vision and he knew what he wanted to achieve, and he took the risk and made that investment, Health City would have been very successful, not only from saving lives, not only from the quality of lives for many individuals locally, but also overseas. But we're also, being able to do what we do to have enough, of a flow through from a cash perspective that we're doing well, and we're able to look and say, you know what, let's make that additional investment to the Cayman Islands. And the good thing is, our type of an investment, you can't pick up and move, right? So that means you're really looking at the fact that we're doing great things. We're going to continue to do great things. And you have a lot of investment whereby if it's not brick and mortar, people can pick up and move, or they can sell the asset and move.
Mm-hmm.
Health City isn't into that type of scenario. We truly believe in
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we kind of lost you just a little bit there, Shamari. Um, yeah, just unmute yourself for us. Sounded like your internet just tripped out for a second there.
no, my headphones. I need to get headphones.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so we're led. We believe in what we're doing. We're making the investment to back up what we've said, and we have many things to come in the future as well.
Mm-hmm.
Try and help even further to reduce costs. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll have a program at one point in time where we'll show you that based on the trajectory of what the healthcare cost actually and spend actually was based on the majority of tertiary care going to South Florida, how we would have arrested that cost and straight lined it over time. But we've reached a point now where we have to do other innovative types of programs and specialties and the such in order to try and arrest that cost again. So we have some new things, some new exciting things outside of the hospital that we'll
Mm-hmm.
be discussing as well. But
Mm-hmm.
definitely a great question. But rest assured that Health City is doing well. Obviously, the country is doing well. We're saving lives. The rest of the Caribbean is over the moon that Health City is here. And for the most part, they actually want us to go to other countries to open facilities there to help the healthcare in those countries
Mm-hmm.
as well.
All right. So Scott's also asking about he says, what about an actual gastroenterologist, not just a part timer or consulting? So I thought you guys had a
Yeah,
gastroenterologist already.
we have a round the clock gastroenterologist, both medical and surgical.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Scott, sounds like you need to go do your executive health check, and then they can show you what else is available there. Shaka Zulu is questioning, interested in whether or not Health City belongs to a publicly traded company in a stock exchange, say, for example, in the US.
Yeah, so we're a part of a publicly traded company, yes, but out of India, not in the US.
Mm-hmm.
But the company is still majority owned by Dr. Shetty and the family,
Mm-hmm.
and that way, the vision continues as
Mm-hmm.
seen. And yesterday I mentioned to you, obviously we're 10 years in, so less and less do we actually speak about Dr. Shetty's vision because we would have done it years ago, but sometimes we forget. Um, Individuals need to watch The Surgeon's Cut. It's a documentary, and if I recall, it was produced by the BBC in conjunction with the PBS, and it's on Netflix. It came out right after COVID, so some people may not have been able to see it, and
Mm-hmm.
it speaks to four medical savants across the globe, 4 different countries, different specialties. And Dr. Shetty is actually the fourth episode speaking about his vision, what he's doing from a healthcare perspective, the great cardiac surgeon that he is. So the surgeon's cut on Netflix. I know at times people have time. They definitely watch it to understand what Dr. Shetty's vision is, and the fact that we here in the Cayman Islands are just proud to be a part of that vision and to help him to achieve what he's seeing on a global perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even from India, and Dr. Benoit can speak to this, it would have been years ago that Dr. Shetty knew that the future of healthcare would be through technology and have made investments into having software engineers and the such to figure out how, using obviously the physician data we have and the patient data we have, how we can use technology to get us closer to our end goal, which is less persons having to come to a hospital, but more persons actually being able to get the care they need without showing up to the hospital. So whether it's wearables, whether it's connections with
Mm-hmm.
nurse physicians that are monitoring, great things that we're doing in research that will definitely see the benefit of that in years to come.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I want to do sort of a rapid fire, pictorial tour, if you will. And these were all taken yesterday. They're not professional photos, folks. I just took them myself on my iPhone. But Dr. Benoit and Shamari, if you can just quickly walk us through what we're looking at in each of these photos, and we'll see how many we can get through in a few minutes. This is a reception receiving area.
Yeah, this is the lobby. Once
Mm-hmm.
we enter, this is the where the when the patient comes to register and start from there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. This is also part of the lobby area.
Yes, this is where the outpatient the pharmacy. That's what we are seeing the glass on the
Mm-hmm.
right side, and that's other waiting area there.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Part of the, again, expansion of the reception and seating area, they're going to have a little coffee beverage area here as well.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Lovely. All right, this area. I love this area here. Additional seats, waiting space. How many people? I know you mentioned it.
44 people can wait there in the waiting area.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. All right, and a number of examination rooms,
We
and this
have
is one of them.
11 examination rooms. This is one of them.
Mm-hmm. And one of the interesting things that you mentioned about the examination rooms is, again, to really improve upon the level of care and customer care that patients will be receiving. You've removed any barriers between the patient and the physician, so that they're on these sort of moving carts. There's no big desk to create this space between them, especially for elderly patients who might be hearing impaired and quite, need a little bit of a softer touch to be able to understand. You're making that a lot easier with the very design of the facility in the rooms as well.
Yeah, this is very important, Sandra. See, traditionally, what we see is a physician will be sitting on a chair, and there is a big table in front of them, and behind that, the patient or the companion will sit, and you can feel that there is a distance, actually, physical distance, and that will even convert in their mind. Actually, there is a gap between them. So we want to avoid that the gap between the physician and the patient. So they'll be very close to you physically, as well as when you are discussing, talking, showing you the investigation reports on the computer, showing you the X-ray or MRI, CT scan. So very closely related or associated with the patient. So that makes a lot of difference. That connection between the patient and the physician.
Mm-hmm. Yes. All right. Very good. Let's go ahead. So, what's this area now that we're looking at here?
This is a procedure room, say closely in the close to the outpatient rooms of the doctors. Any patients comes whether there is a small procedures or removing the stitches or doing the dressings. this is the area for that.
Mhm. All right. And
Again,
this is just another visual from the seating and waiting area. Beautiful. And love the artwork. And of course, this piece caught my eye. In case you guys don't recognize it, it actually is a photograph, and they've got it covering an entire wall of East End, kind of like, if you were at the location there, what you'd be seeing looking over the ocean right there in beautiful East End. So gorgeous there. So additional, lots of comfortable seating spaces. The design is very modern and new, and lots of availability for people to be able to sit and wait outside of reception desk areas, reducing the times that they might have to walk between different departments and so forth as well.
You notice, Dr. Benoit, I hid from the camera, so you're the
Yeah.
model. of this picture.
yeah,
I made sure I strategically.
Yes. And we're going to see a number of outdoor spaces. This is one on the ground floor, but even on the other levels. So talk to us about the importance of outdoor space in a hospital, which I think is amazing and something that is lacking in other facilities, quite frankly.
Shamadi.
So I mean, from just even if you and you would have toured the East End facility, right, Sandy? So you will see that we actually built that facility in what I call a series of T's, right? One T upon another T upon another T, so that you can get light into all of the rooms, all of the corridors. One thing that Dr. Shetty, outside of the patients, but one thing Dr. Shetty has always wanted is for there to be a lot of light, in natural light, into operating theaters. And he believes in the healing properties of light, as well as how that helps in a patient recovery. So even though this facility is 3 stories high, so we couldn't do it in a series of T's. What we did do is that you'll see that there's a center, if persons who can see right now, there's a more or less a hollow center per se, so that you can have windows on the interior that's overlooking gardens, and there's going to be a beautiful water feature there, as well as outdoor spaces for people to go out and get fresh air. And then obviously, if you're on the outside perimeter of the building, you'll be able to see outside. And we also ensure that even in the patient rooms, the windows from top to bottom, so that you will be able to see completely out and get all of that daylight coming in as well. Dr. Benoit would be able to talk to you about the studies that show how sunlight actually helps. But even when you have, for instance, in East End, our ICU areas, we also make sure that there is sunlight coming in, so that patients will be able to know when it's day, when it's night, through natural light versus artificial light as well. It's a part of what we believe in. And you would have also seen, Sandy, outside of the interior, on the exterior, we also have a lot of walking paths, a lot of benches, a lot of different areas for persons, with shaded areas as well for persons who want to go outside at any point in time to take in the fresh air as well.
Yes. And yeah, I mean, the lighting is so important. And I agree that the green spaces, they're still out there working. As you can see, some workmen still there, putting together some of the foliage and plants and so forth. It looks amazing. We have a caller in the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. I just had a quick question that maybe they can answer, maybe not. Are there any concerns with the facility being so close to the dump, especially now that the regen, I think it's called, project has been stopped? Are there any major concerns about that? And if so, how are they navigating that?
Okay. Shamari, thank you so much, caller. Appreciate it.
No, definitely a good question. And as you would have seen previously, they had capped a portion of the landfill, and as they were preparing to move to the other end, the landfill is a major issue for everybody, not just health that's there. There's a lot of residential areas that are surrounding the landfill as well. So we'll leave it to the government officials in whatever negotiations they need to have moving forward to take care of that issue. but we know it's going to need to be addressed at some point in time, regardless if it's the same government or a new government or whatever the assignation may be, come May 2025. Obviously, we've lent our voice to just as a Caymanian, as well as a major employer, as well as a major portion of what the Cayman Islands is to be in the future. That something needs to be done, and I'm sure they'll work it out in the best interest of Cayman moving forward. From a tourism perspective, when I had that tourism hat on,
Yes.
I would have recalled the picture from the cruise line, right? There was a cruise,
Yes.
well, a Caymanian, I think, that was on the cruise ship that saw it, that took that picture, and I think that was the first time we actually really realized that it was highest point on Cayman. So even from a tourism perspective, you have persons who are coming by cruise, seeing the eyesore that is the landfill, and you also have many different residents and businesses that are right there next to the landfill. So our concern is the same as everybody else that's in the surrounding area, and we know and we hope and we're sure that at some point in time in the close future there will be some deal, some agreement, and the mitigation efforts are ongoing. And obviously, we lend our voice to it as well. But from a patient perspective, we do everything possible to ensure that our patients are protected, and all of our major surgeries still happen in East End, and we have more of our daycare surgeries that will be happening in Camana Bay. And I'll get Dr. Benoit to speak to that. But these are your types of procedures that you can come in the morning and you can leave in the actual evening.
Right.
Your more major surgeries will be happening in
Yes.
East End as well.
And can I just say that the equipment, everything at this facility is brand new, folks. There's nothing being repurposed or borrowed from anyone. I mean, we'll see some of the Philips equipment here in a second. But even this, Dr. Benoit, tell us a little bit about what this machine was, because I was fascinated by this
Yeah,
machine and how you use it.
this is a vacuum assisted actually machine. It's connecting the entire hospital. That's the laboratory, emergency rooms, wards, and all areas where no need to take these samples manually to the laboratory or the blood bank. We can just put these samples in a particular box, and you can just press the switch. It will go to the laboratory within a few seconds. Or if the blood bank they want to send a blood to a particular area, whether it's emergency room or the ward or operating room, just push a button, it will reach there. So one is save time or save manpower, and it's very quick, much easier. So we have connected the entire hospital with this vacuum assisted system.
Wow. It reminds me, Shamari, I don't know, Dr. Benoit might not be familiar with them, but an episode of the Jetsons where you just press it
Right? Hey, yeah.
and all of a sudden it shows up in another department. So that's pretty cool.
Pneumatic system, definitely.
Yeah. Modern technology there you go, folks. So it's transporting it around the hospital. So here we have, again, just part of the aesthetics. I think people underplay or maybe don't appreciate how important aesthetics are. Comfortable, being in a comfortable environment. So lots of use of local fauna photos and imagery and stuff as you walk through the hallways. So this is one of the rooms now that we get to see, and I can tell you the most impressive thing about the rooms is the amount of space that you get. This is, in my opinion, in your homes, you don't even have rooms as big. So tell us a little bit, Dr. Benoit, about why it was important to give patients, number one, single rooms where they can be comfortable after procedure, but also spacious rooms with like shelving, nice, just clean environment, but still aesthetically pleasing. A TV that's actually going to be functional in every single room as well.
Yeah, so I'm glad actually Shamari could not hide in this photo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She caught me slipping, Dr. Benoit. I thought I had escaped.
Yeah. So what we believe, these single room, spacious rooms, First of all, this patient confidentiality and comfort, privacy, everything. See, whatever
Mhm.
said and done, a small community. If two patients in one room, even though we separate with whether curtain or any partition, there will be some discomfort for the patients when they discuss with the doctor or the nurses about their medical ailments or anything. So we thought in that facility we will have all single rooms, very spacious. So during the recovery period, they can walk within the rooms, and there is a very good full size window opening towards not opening, you can view the easterly Tibet's highway. So these are, and that sunlight that comes, these are all make the recovery different actually for
Mhm.
the patient. See, we are seeing the green when you look at the look at through the look through
Mhm.
the window, that the greenery we see the vehicles moving through the highway, the sunlight, all will make a definitely big impact in the recovery. Because if you are in a four walls without any windows or sunlight,
Mhm.
couple of days you stay in the room, you lose your orientation to time, space, or every place, and that will have this cause this ICU or room psychosis or all those things. So this will, you are part of, you are in the nature, you are looks like so
Mhm.
along with this bright sunlight. So considering all those aspects, where the patient's comfort as a staying alone without sharing the room with anybody, the confidentiality, privacy, comfort, this healing effect of the sunlight, the nature, considering all those things, we made these rooms very spacious, well littered, a full size window on one wall, or the other side it's there's two rows of rooms, means one side is towards the highway, the other side towards the courtyard.
Mhm.
So makes the recovery much easier and feel
Yeah.
very comfortable.
And you've got one suite that's kind of like a VIP suite. It's huge. And I mean, has a completely separate area with like looks like it's gonna have its own TV mounted on that side as well. Sofa seating areas. So the idea then is if someone is going to be there and they need to have a loved one stay with them, there's more than sufficient room here for multiple people, private bathroom facility as well. All right. Oh, there's a close up of the sitting area there. So very, very beautiful. All right. So just some additional images of some of the beds. So just remind us of how many rooms there are.
We have 15 private rooms apart from 12 ICU, 10 emergency rooms, and maternity separate, NICU separate, dialysis area separate. The rooms alone, 15 single rooms are there.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's talk now about some of the equipment that we're going to be seeing in the next couple photos. Dr. Benoit, what is this piece of equipment here?
This is what you are showing is the central laboratory.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is automated machines, whether it is for the bloods or kidney function, liver function. Everything can be done in this laboratory there. Automated, the state of the art, newest machines that is introduced a couple of years ago. They're a recent version of these machines.
Mm-hmm.
So we can, I don't exactly at one go, you can, many tests we can do at one go, and the results will be available in less than half an hour. So that
Mm-hmm.
makes the waiting time for the patients, especially the outpatients, not wait for a long time to get the same day tests.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
these
you
are,
were mentioning yesterday, Dr. Benoit, that there was, I think when Health City first came on board, Shamari, you might have said this, that there was something like, I forget what percentage of tests and procedures had to be done overseas. And now you see the reversal happening where a lot of it can be done right here in Ireland and maybe like 8% or something has to be sent away for referral.
yeah, when we started 10 years ago, almost 40 percentage of the samples or tests we were sending overseas. Now that's came down to around 5 to 8% only going overseas. That's because those are very rare tests and doesn't make sense to do it once in a while. Here, there was around 90-95% of the tests we are doing in our facility now.
And this, folks, is one of the maternity rooms here. So wanted to show you guys. And then this is in the NICU area as well. So what are these machines? Tell us about these machines that are coming down from the ceiling space.
Yeah, so again, we are making it as the most advanced machines that's coming without usually in the ICUs, you see all these medical gases coming separate pipes and all that. So this is nothing. These pendants, what we are seeing, has all those pipes within that shaft, and this is movable. You can 360. You can move this pendant close to the patient where they are, and all the ventilators and monitors, everything, all plug points, everything is there on this pendant. So it's very what you call compact and easy to use. Everything in that one pendant for the patient. So looks very sophisticated. Not so many pipes and cables and wires are coming out from the wall or ceiling. This is just like this.
Right. All right. So this is another area here. Now you have to remind me of which one is this.
This is the cath lab.
Cath lab. Yes. Okay.
That's a Philips cath lab. It's a very modern equipment. Makes a lot of difference again to the patients because they don't have to after a heart attack or a stroke, they don't have to travel all the way to East End now. They can just in a few minutes they'll be there, and within the next few minutes they will be treated by either stent or the neurologist will put their gadgets into the brain and retrieve the clots that is producing the clot, and usually within 48 hours they will be able to walk if they come on time.
Wow.
And sorry, and also to mention, Sandy, Dr. Benoit obviously is very humble, but he's the only cardiothoracic surgeon that we have on island. So if in the event you actually present, you go in for a stent and it has to be converted, if it's actually at a stage it needs to be converted to have a cardiothoracic surgeon to come in to do a bypass. Dr. Benoit is the only cardiothoracic surgeon on the island. And obviously minutes matter, transfers matter. So the fact that we're going to be right here with a cath lab, plus obviously Dr. Benoit and his capabilities with emergency capabilities for the operating theater to transfer it into an actual bypass if needed. That's all important, and we have all of that facility here at Camana Bay, and then obviously we will have it in East End as well. But now, even within whatever 5-10 minutes, you're going to be right next to Health City, and you also have the capabilities of a Dr. Benoit to come in to convert if needed for a higher level cabbage as well.
And I love the fact that we're getting this preview, Dr. Benoit and Shamari. Thank you guys so much for inviting us along and allowing me to take photos of the different rooms just to show people, what's there, what the equipment looks like. Tell me again, this is a surgical room, I believe.
Yeah, this is one of the operating rooms. So we have total 5 operating rooms, 3 regular operating rooms, and one, as I told you, dedicated to cesarean section, and one to the emergency area, close to the emergency area. So as I told you, in the emergency area, I will talk to you about the emergency on another show or something, how it's different from what is currently on silent.
Right. Okay. All right. And speaking of emergency areas, this is, I think, the beds for that section?
Yes, this is the emergency. Yeah, we have 10 beds in the emergency.
All right. We'll spend some time because it's good to know specifically a bit more about that. But yes, folks, I know the simple things excite some of you. So I was excited to see a comfortable pillow, not flat. And you've got, your gowns, you get a blanket. It's the simple things that can really make a humongous difference. And even here, we have additional outdoor seating area that would be ideal even for staff to be able to take a break everybody needs to de-stress and get some vitamin D, some time out in the sun. So the cafeteria has outdoor patio seating and dining area as well. And I know those of you, including myself, who love the food when you go there. It's going to be the same chef, the same, good food that so many of you have come to grow to love there at the East End location by none other than Chef Shetty. Lots of parking. I love the fact that you have so many blue spots. And of course, we encourage people to always respect those blue spots. But this is the most blue spots I've ever seen at a medical facility in Cayman, where you think logically you would need them. It's good to see so many of them available here. And there's lots of ample parking as well. So this was just another shot of the outdoor dining area by the cafeteria. So that was quite nice. That was the end of my pictures, but we're going to do some video footage and stuff as well. You guys will get to see more of it. And of course, I do want to thank Shamari and Dr. Shetty for coming on today.
Dr. Benoit.
Dr. Benoit, my apologies. To share with you guys a little bit more. Lavana is in the house. Good morning, Lavana. So good to see that you're on the road to recovery. She said, I've spoken highly about Health City with my experiences there. If I didn't go for medical reasons, I felt like I was in a hotel. 3 beds could fit in one of those rooms, literally. My personal experience was 100% care and service. Thank you. And she recently, had a surgery there, and we're so glad to see that she's on full recovery mode on the mends. All right. Well, thank you so much to Dr. Benoit and I think it was Johan that said Dr. Shamari. He's not a doctor, but he has close affiliation, so he sure does know a lot about the environment in the world there. So thank you both so much for coming on the program today. We're excited to see more of the facility and, of course, to see it start to open up and receive patients. And I'm sure that you guys will be telling us more about that process as we proceed.
Definitely. And Sandy, we look forward to seeing you on Friday so that we can have the walkthrough with the video so that people can actually get a first-hand experience of
absolutely. I think we're going to firm up the time. Yes, you're firm the time. But, I'm going to say this, just on a personal note, somehow Gianna managed to twist her ankle yesterday at school during recess. And so if this facility was open already, she could have literally been 2 minutes from it and, gone straight there. But I will take her in this morning where she can get an x-ray and just kind of see what's going on there. If we just need to ice it and give her some pain medicine, or if there's anything else that we need to be concerned about. So, this is why it's amazing to have medical facilities available to us at, both sides of the island. I think is perfect. Yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you,
Sandy. 14-3. Book it. My predictions: 14-3 for the season. Miami Dolphins.
Love it. All right. Thank you, Dr. Benoit. And
thank you, Sandy.
So much to Shamari as well. So good to see them. Yes. Well, there you have it. Poor little Gigi. She's in a lot of pain. We tried icing it last night. When she said to me she heard it snap, I thought, ooh, that might not be a good way of describing it. So we'll have her checked out, and I'll let you guys know tomorrow how she is feeling. So thank you to both of them for coming in the program, folks. Don't forget, this is your last weekend to get out and see the Cayman Islands Drama Society's play Juve. So don't miss this opportunity.
Cayman Drama Society presents Juve by Yasmin Joseph. This play about Notting Hill Carnival will be performed at the Prospect Playhouse from the 29th of August to the 14th of September. Come join the Dane, Jade and Nisha on the road as a DJ drops the beat and the girls both lose and find themselves in the music. The show takes us on a moving and fun ride through the streets of London and the history and emotions the carnival symbolizes. Get your tickets now at www.cds.ky.
And also don't forget that this weekend, on Friday, is going to be the premiere event for Little Jazz Pit Karen. I think I finally got it right there, Soka. Her trailer preview, Hurricane Ivan, so make sure that you check that out as well. I think the 7 o'clock showing is already sold out, but there might be some tickets available for 8 o'clock. Don't delay. You can go to the Event Pro website and get your tickets for this event as well.
Itsy bitsy spider went We've done this dozens of times before.
This one feels different, Jack.
Down came the rain, like was the spider.
Pick up. Damn it.
Out came the sun and dried up all the rain. Itsy bitsy spider went up the spout again. Mom!
That gives me the bejeebers every time I hear that song played like that. Wow, that looks fantastic. I'm excited. I'm going. I will be there. So come on out and support our local talent. Thank you guys so much. So thank you. Damien, we'll get to that a little bit later on. I saw that comment about this, how to deal with the dump. I don't know if that was a joke or if she was serious about that solution, but yeah, we'll talk about that, Flora. That's probably not what you want to do, to be quite frank and honest. But listen, there was no show yesterday. I'm so sorry, guys. She said, oh God. Okay, all right. I'm closer, Soka. She says, you're saying Karen with 2 syllables. Pretend there is no E in Karen. Oh God, that's hard. How do you say no E? All right, I'm gonna have to practice it a little bit more, I think. But anyway, listen, I wasn't here yesterday, and you guys know why. I was in court. Thank you so much, by the way, for all of your love and support, your comments. I tried to get through all of them on the little reminder message that we wouldn't have a show, because when I'm not here, you guys are like, where's Sandy? What's going on? So I posted something to say, hey, not to worry. I am in court today. You know, everything's good. We're going to take care of some business. And so in many respects, it was a very short and sweet segment. Pitcairn. So no Pitcairn. Pitcairn, I think that's it. Say Pitcairn. Pitcairn. No, Pitcairn. Is that it? Pitcairn? Oh, Lord. I'm going to get it. One way or the other. Thank you, Patricia. So listen, I went to court of appeal. You guys will remember, in terms of the backdrop story, this was a 2020, my only conviction that, you know, listen, I'm going to tell y'all how I feel about this, right? So this was 2020. 4 years ago now. We were in a different time, in a different headspace. But I filed my appeal in 2021. The court accepted the appeal. And I've kind of been of two minds, like, Sandy, you're bigger than that now. You've moved on. Part of me was like, just leave it alone, let it go. You know, I felt like Frozen. What's her name in Frozen? Let it go. Like, I just want to break on song just to let it go. But the other part of me, which is like the, you know, come up with the all boxing gloves on, part of me said, you know what? You can't let go what you really feel is an injustice. And I felt so such a way about this that the second the verdict came in, I fired my lawyer within an hour and I took over the case myself. I did the sentencing. And even with the sentencing, there was a lot of stuff that was really bothering me about how this was handled. And so, you know, I said, you know what, I'm just going to suck it up, buttercup, as we often say, and I'm just going to proceed with doing this on my own. I'm going to put my grounds together. It was a 20-something page document that I somehow managed to you know, put together. It's so interesting because it took me back to my time at law school, like sitting there looking at, and I was telling you guys the other day when I was starting to prepare the legal grounds, you know, looking at documents and looking at cases. And I've never done anything with the Court of Appeal in my life. So this is completely new, trying to figure out, you know, what's the format and what this should look like, and just trying to put it together as intelligently as I possibly can. So it was challenging. It required me to dig back into the law, something that is perhaps my first love. I do love all things legal, and I do love the law, of course. And, you know, I put it together and I submitted it, appeared in court yesterday. What surprised me about the process is that there were so many people there in court, so many lawyers, I mean, with so many cases listed on the Court of Appeal list. And most of them were not successful. I don't know if there were any that actually, I'd have to ask Alric, I think, stayed for most of the day. I think most of them were not successful at all. In fact, let me just ask Alric this question. I wonder if he minds me calling him this morning, because he's a lawyer, and of course, it's interesting that a lot of times he will sit there and listen to the proceedings. Let's give Alric a little call this morning, see if we can hear how many in total there were. And like I said,
the number you dialed is temporarily out of service.
Wait a minute. Hold on here. I think I need to call him in WhatsApp. I know he travels a lot, so I don't know that he always has his phone. All right, hold on. Let me see. Yeah, let's do a WhatsApp call. By the way, this phone, I have two SIM cards on it, 2 eSIMs. This is a new show phone. Let's see if we can get a hold of Alric. No. Oh. Hello. Good morning.
Morning.
How are you? You're live on the radio. I have a question. Sorry. I had some questions for you about yesterday's proceedings. So you were there, I think, most of the day. So how many appeals did the court actually decide on? How many different ones? I know there's quite a few lawyers there, obviously.
I can't recall how many, because some were actually put off until Thursday.
Okay. So it was almost like a lot of rapid fire. Now, what I found interesting, Alric, I mean, I've actually never really been to like a Court of Appeal session before. So the lawyers come, sometimes they bring the defendants in. So some of the clients were there. But really, do you not get the sense that the judges read the written submissions and they actually pretty much decide beforehand, for most of the cases, whether or not they have any merit and what their position is?
That is also my understanding. They will read all of the submissions prior to your attendance. So for that reason, they want the lawyers to be efficient with anything they have to say on the actual day. As you may have noticed, in some cases, the Court of Appeal noted to the lawyers that they have already read the documents, so there's no need to rehash the grounds of appeal in court. It's also noticeable that the Court of Appeal seems to be disappointed at some of the parties who appear to be unprepared to proceed with their matters. I'm not sure how far that goes in terms of what their overall impression of Cayman is, but it must weigh on them in some way, possibly having traveled so far to come to Cayman to do these important proceedings.
Yeah, because they actually, some people are asking like, well, who are these judges and how does this work? They're actually not here. They've come from the UK, and this is the Court of Appeal, which is, the highest court that would be sitting here on this island, obviously. So they come in and they hold multiple sessions throughout the year. And so the court staff will actually book their calendar and they know, what cases. And I must say the court staff do a really good job of trying to progress you along and trying to remind you this is your deadline for submission of your documents, because you have to serve it on the other party in the court and the judges get a copy. And then obviously they have a responsibility then to respond. So it is a process. And of course, this is where, whatever knowledge I may or may not have, I'm not a lawyer and I'm certainly not an expert. But, one of the things that can trip you up very, very easily is not being prepared and not being on your timeline with the submission of your documents and getting these sort of things in on time, the things that you intend to rely on, whether it's like case law or evidence, preparing your bundle, so to speak. So it is a process. I've just done this on my own thus far, which is going to change here shortly. But even for me, it was like, wow, this is quite an undertaking to be able to do it. So you sat in yesterday. I was a bit surprised that I was called first. I actually wasn't expecting that. So I was sitting there with all of my little papers and stuff in hand. I figured, oh, I'll get called later on in the day. Because I always thought they call, in my opinion, they call sort of lawyers normally get first preference. And then if you're IP, which means that you're in person, you're representing yourself, you tend to fall way down the totem pole. So I was surprised that I was called first. Any takes on, you were obviously one of the few media houses there yesterday. So I want to get your independent observations on what was said in relation to my matter. But any observations about and it was, so there's 3 judges. It's a panel of 3 judges. And the president of the Court of Appeal, Sir, oh gosh, help me out, Alric. You're going to remember his name.
John Goldring.
Mm-hmm. So he speaks. Is he normally the only one that speaks? And then the judges speak through him if they have something to say. You'll notice them kind of talking amongst each other.
No, he talks amongst the rest because he has to have their agreement.
Right. Okay.
So he normally speaks, but the other judges can speak from time to time if they wish. But generally speaking, if they agree or if they have nothing to add, they wouldn't normally say anything.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. Yeah. So he made some observations yesterday that kind of took me by surprise. And one of the things just out of the bat that he said is he picked out several of my grounds because I had like multiple grounds of appeal. And he picked out, I think, 3 or 4 of them. Did you get the exact number? Because to be honest, I was there like trying to wear 2 hats. One where I'm trying to remember all the details so I can report accurately on it. But the other one is I'm there, as a litigant person. So I think it was maybe 4 of the grounds that he said, he then asked me the question, these are the grounds of your appeal. I said, oh, yes, but there's others. And he said, well, that other one may not be here nor there. If these other ones succeed, it's not going to matter. So what was your take on kind of his observations?
I didn't get the detailed points, but I got the main emphasis that he made, which was that you have serious arguable points. And he pointed to DPP versus Manchester magistrates case as the case that lawyers should be looking at in terms of freedom of press. So from his statement, he implied that the judge may have gotten the law wrong.
Well, he didn't imply it. He actually said it. He actually said pretty much verbatim, and I'm going to get the transcripts, but he said, you've questioned whether the judge got the law wrong, and we do believe that he got the law wrong. That's what he said. That's not an implication. That's a pretty strong statement if you ask me.
Which has to be laid out by leading counsel.
Right. Yes.
So
yeah,
it's gonna. So I guess you'll have to see what the DPP comes back with after looking at what they may think goes against your points. But the Court of Appeal hasn't concluded yet. So while those statements were made, it's still up to leading counsel from your side and DPP to make those further submissions, right?
Right. Yeah. And he did say to the DPP, which, by the way, this is an aside note, but it's a very interesting note. The representative from the DPP who's handling this case is none other than the head of the DPP himself, Mr. Simon Davies. And he has never, and I don't know if you know this, Alric, but he has actually never done a case in this jurisdiction yet. So this is the first time that he stepped up to the plate to handle a case. I don't know if that strikes you as odd or interesting, but people in the legal fraternity at court were like, how on earth did you manage to get the head of the DPP out? They've had, there's been the McKeeva Bush's case. He wasn't robed up for that, for either one of those. There's been all sorts of murder cases. He's not put on the robe for any of those, but he sure did find the time to robe up and put on his little wig for good old little me?
Well, it may be that he found time out of his busy schedule, or maybe this case is that important that he found a need to appear.
Yeah. Or maybe nobody else in his office wanted to do it. There's always that possibility that he was finding it difficult for anybody else who really wanted to take this on. So we don't know for sure, but we do know this is like the first time anybody's ever seen him in court. And they were like, wow, this is interesting to say the least. One of the observations also that the president of the Court of Appeals said to him is that you may want to reconsider your position. Now, that's interesting because the last time I heard words similar to that was when I did my judicial review case. I forget what year that was. Maybe 2012, I think. And I won that case as well against the AG's office. And essentially when the judge said that, I think in his mind, that was Justice Henderson at the time. In his mind, he was telling he actually said, you guys need to reconsider your position if you really have an answerable case. And he was inviting them, which they did not take him up on it. And he got quite annoyed later on. He was inviting them to fall on their own sword and admit that they had made a mistake with the issuance of the search warrant. And of course, they refused to do so. And so when his judgment came down, he came down very, very hard. And it was actually Suzanne Bothwell at the time saying to her that, although she claimed she was following the instructions of her client, he said, you're the lawyer, so you're supposed to know and advise your client accordingly based on the law. And he felt like that was not being done. So it is interesting. Obviously, I'm looking forward to the conclusion of this. We have a ways yet to go. The other thing that was something I've never seen before, and I wonder, Alric, if you can speak to, if you've ever seen this, even at the Court of Appeal level, is that the head of the legal aid division, Miss Stacey Park, was there so that the court could address her in relation to my matter as well. I've never seen that happen before. Have you ever, made those observations previously?
What I would say is that when I used to practice law, I'm not registered now. When I used to practice, I did corporate, so I didn't actually appear in court. So I wasn't familiar with whether or not, it would be unusual for her to attend.
Yeah. But since you've been covering it for news purposes, I know you enjoy going to court when you can. Have you seen it happen then?
No, I've never seen that happen while covering the news. Never.
And to be honest, I made the following observation. It's interesting when you're on your feet, you're also trying to take notes and whatever. But I did make the following observation that in my mind, it's actually never happened before. And I tell you why I say that. They didn't even know what she looked like. So they were like, the director of legal aid is here. They're looking around the court. Who is she? What does she look like? And she had to raise her hand. So obviously she's never appeared before the Court of Appeal before.
Yeah, it's interesting. But that's the only observation I would probably make since because I don't know how many other cases there have been where she has been in her role. So, but it's a very interesting observation you make.
Well, I enjoy sort of dissecting cases, and of course, my own is certainly no exception to that. Thank you for playing in the role of co-host for me on this segment of Legal Eagle with Alric and Sandy. Just kidding. But thank you very, very much, Alric, for your 2 cents, as they say. I appreciate it.
Okay, well, have a good day.
All right, thanks. You too. All right, so yeah, it's good to have somebody else who was there, kind of give their take on it. So listen, the judges, did speak to Miss Stacey about the legal aid process. What they said was, this isn't just about an appeal for me. There's some broader constitutional issues here that are important for the entire country. And basically, I got the sense that what they were saying and what they weren't saying, but you can surmise from what they did say and the things that they did, is that they're about to set down in a decision, which will be precedent setting, a very important area of law. Like they're going to clarify some stuff in relation to the Constitution, in relation to freedom of speech, and specifically freedom of speech when it comes to the media. So, you know, people have a right. Freedom of speech is protected and guarded by the courts in most jurisdictions, most democratic jurisdictions around the world. And it's one of those observations where you might not like what somebody says, but they still have the right to say it. And a lot of times now, you may not even like how they're saying it, but they still have a right to say it. So they will now define, I think, what the lines are in relation to that. And the fact that somebody tries to criminalize free speech, even when you don't appreciate how it's being done, is very, very interesting. So Damien says, what if you were convicted or had to pay a fine? Well, I did. I was convicted. And I did have to pay a fine. This is the really only substantial conviction on my record. It's the only thing that's reflected, right? So I did have to pay a fine. I think the fine was like $3,000. So if they throw out the case, I'm assuming I get my money back, honey child. Now, some of that, a small portion of that was donated by the good people who support this platform and who support me. They thought a grave injustice was done with the conviction. It seems like the courts of appeal might be agreeing with all of us in that regard. And so I'm assuming that would undo everything in relation to the conviction, which means it undoes the sentencing as well. So somebody's going to be refunding me my $3,000, honey child. And I'll use, I still think that I have my notes in terms of who was making a donation, because I try to write these things down. And so, you know, if anybody wants their money back, then certainly that we can arrange that. But I think most people are going to be like, whatever. But I'll arrange to donate that portion of it to, you know, maybe the gift cards or something else that I do here in the community. But yeah, so it undoes everything. And what it also would undo, Damien, because what a lot of people don't realize is I've also appealed not just the conviction, but the sentencing. Because in the sentencing, the judge did, again, what I thought was shocking, how far he went with this. He actually said that I had to remove everything that had ever been written about Mr. Matthew Leslie, which is shocking because none of that was part of this case, right? So we had written about, there was a issue with him in customs, how he managed to get a customs duty. That was shocking how he went about that. Really, really shady, in my opinion. We can go through some of the details after this, because now what that means is all of those things can be republished. And I believe that they are still in, I'll have to double check this. They should still be somewhere on the site as available as a, oh man, I'd have to go look on the site to see how they were done. Yeah, I'll have to double check, but I think they might still be there. So they may not have been deleted, as opposed to they're just not visible. So I'll have to double check. That's interesting. I'm not sure. I'll have to double check that, but there's a possibility that they might still be there for publication, because listen, a lot of research actually went into writing those. It was unfortunate that we were made to take those down, because my position has always been, just like how we report on anybody else, it is a warning to other people when you know how people move in, you know, in the community. And so you need to be aware. Yes, it looks like they're still there. One is from like 2017. And so he made us take all of these things down, which in my opinion was shocking. One was, yep, they're still available. One was from 2017, one was from 2018 about the carnival and so on. So all of those will be subject to reprinting once this is thrown out, as well as the podcast that was like 90% of this, that will be republished as well. So a lot, Damien, and others can be undone as a result of this, a lot of injustices. And the other part of the sentencing that was really, really shocking is that he also said, I could never, ever in the future print anything about or mention Mr. Leslie ever again, even like in group chats and stuff like that, which again, it's like, wow, the power that this, in my humble opinion, that this judge tried to exert over me and over this situation, I've never seen anything like it before. So even other media was like, so if this guy commits murder next week, we can report on it, but CMR can't. It's ludicrous, but that's exactly what he ruled as part of the sentencing. So that's also one of the points of appeal, is that he went too far with his sentencing. I mean, he was on a field day. Anyway, I will keep you guys updated as best I can. How it ended was he asked me to go away with the director of legal aid to speak with her about getting, because they said they now need to hear arguments from senior legal counsel. So in other words, they need to hear arguments from a KC. And there's only one KC on island that does criminal, and he was actually conflicted why I didn't use him to begin with. I did approach him back in 2019, 2020, when this case came about, and he was conflicted for whatever reason. And so we will seek now to bring in someone from overseas to address the Court of Appeal. And I don't know the date. I'm back on Thursday. I have to go back in and we'll firm up some details then. And I will certainly keep you guys updated. Marshall says, it sounds like that judge had it out for you. Well, I did sit back and make some interesting observations, even about how my lawyer was treated like throughout the proceedings versus the prosecution. And there was a marked difference. I don't know if he had it out for me or not, but what I can tell you is there's a very different level of treatment. And so you can surmise in your own minds why that may have been the case. So yeah, so we soldier on. I'm glad that I decided to stick with it. And this is just a lesson in life that, sometimes you even second guess yourself. You question yourself about what you're doing and what you're not doing, and if you're doing the right thing. And, sometimes you want to give up, like you're just tired. You're like, oh, I've had enough of this already. And this is a perfect example of where not giving up was the right thing to do. And the benefits will not just be about myself, but it's going to potentially set down some really good directions as it relates to freedom of speech in this country. Which is important because, there are powers that be that are always seeking to muzzle media. They're always seeking to muzzle individuals. And they think that they can do that with the ICT legislation. It looks very much so now like that's going to be decided upon by this judge in the opposite direction. But they're always threatening me with this section of the ICT legislation. It looks like they can now put that to bed and stop doing that, depending on exactly what the Court of Appeal actually has to say. But it's tough. It's a tough position to be in. It's tough when you have police officers come to you and say, if you remove this podcast and this article about the DPP's office, then we won't charge you with a criminal offense. It's like, that sounds like a bribe, first of all. You're all trying to talk about I bribed somebody in a civil proceeding. This is a criminal situation here. And you guys are trying to bribe me with threatening me with my own freedom, or we're going to, prosecute you and put you in jail sort of vibe unless you take this content down. And so I have always stood my ground. I've always challenged them and said, well, you got to do what you got to do, honey chill. Go right ahead. And I'll be here, fighting the good fight. And so in that instance, they decided not to pursue it after all, even after they told me that. And because I didn't budge. And I said, it sounds to me like you're trying to muzzle and control the media by threats of criminal prosecution. And I'm not going to bow down to that under any circumstances. And in the end, apparently, they did not proceed with it. So it's pretty shocking, folks. And, keep your chin up. And, sometimes you just have to fight in life. What else are you going to do, honey child? Thank you, Shaka Zulu says, I'm so impressed with your ability to push through the BS of this case and clarify any potential precedents that could be set in this case. Well, I think that the vibe that I certainly got yesterday, and I think a lot of the lawyers who were there listening, what the Court of Appeal already said in a preliminary sense is that this is going to be one for the books for sure. This will be a precedent-setting case that is testing the law in the Cayman Islands. And they said it to the head of the legal department. They said that this case is important for the entire island, and it's important for legal reasons. Big shout out to Kenneth Bryan, Minister of Tourism and Port. He was actually there, and so he would have heard it for himself. Maybe he can now advise this government, that they want to stop going in the direction of trying to muzzle people in any event. So thank you, Richard. Really, really appreciate it as well. And yeah, so we continue on. I do have this other case with John Felder looming as well. We'll see what happens with that. I think that's scheduled to make some sort of headway in November, I believe. So I'll keep you guys updated as it relates to that also. It's just shocking the things that they've come up with in a very, very creative way to be able to make cases against me. So Richard, I see your comment here. Thank you so much, Richard. I wanted to take the time. He says you're going to make history with this case. I wanted to take the time to express our condolences with the passing of your mom. I can't believe it. I'm so sorry to hear about this. She's born in 1922, folks. Wow. It looks like she lived and had an amazing life. Thank you so much. Just 2 years shy of 100 years old. No, wait a minute. How old was she? Hold on. 1922. Let me make sure I get my math right. And we're in 2024. That's 102. Oh my God. My math. I tell you, I'm not a math person. 102 years old. Wow. What an amazing gift to have had her for all of those years. So her obituary is online if you guys want to go read it. So incredibly amazing to read how she went to Port Arthur with her family in the 1970s, and she made it her home, moved to Round Rock, Texas, where she lived with her son, Richard, until her passing. And I have, Richard, the I Am Caymanian video clip of the two of you, and we're going to be making another round of those here shortly. So I just wanted to extend our condolences to the passage of your mom. I know that you just had the service this last Friday. So just thinking of you and hope that everything, as good for you as it possibly can be at this difficult time. Carrie joining us from Cayman Brack. Hello, Miss Carrie. She says, happy you won this. Well, the final, just to be clear, the final ruling isn't in, but from a preliminary perspective, they have indicated that they have found favor with my arguments. She says, now I can republish my immigration FOI that the 4 corporate bullies that sued me to remove an FOI that had been ruled against by Chief Justice Smelly to remove from the public domain. So, I mean, obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of that specific case, to be honest, Carrie. But yeah, the thing is, as they said, this will have far-reaching implications. Now, one of the things that I've always said is that what this should have been a civil case. And so what you find happening is people like Mr. Leslie and Mr. Felder, to be quite fair, they will realize that they don't have a chance in heck to win a civil case. So they can't come at me for defamation. Felder already lost that. He owes me $50,000 because he lost his defamation case. And because, 97% of what I said was actually correct and true. The little margins of 1%, 2%, 3% error, courts don't normally give you, tons of money because you've made a little, like, okay, we got the date of when they fired him wrong by like a day or whatever. Like the courts, listen, there's room for error in media, especially. And, media is given some leeway to make those corrections by way of, corrective statements that are then published. So, It is interesting, though, that people take something that should be a civil matter and then they try to criminalize it. So this should have always been, I've always said this from day one, if Mr. Leslie felt he had a case, this should have been a case of defamation. The problem is when what you're saying is actually true, they can't win a defamation case because I've got the screenshots, I've got the messages. I wasn't saying anything that wasn't true. We know about his financial problems. We know his own grandmother sued him and all these other things, right? So from that perspective, the person goes, right, I can't sue her for defamation because I can't win a defamation case. Because what she has said about me and my questionable character can all stand on its own legs. It all has merit. And so what they then do is they run to the police. And the police, this is a stark warning for the RCIPS, because the police allow their policing powers to be abused, especially when they have an axe to grind with a particular individual. And let us be very, very frank here. The police have long had an axe to grind with me, dating back to 2010, when they brought their case against me for dog theft. And I made them look stupid representing myself in summary court. The judge said this was the biggest waste of the public purse and resources and policing that he's ever seen. He's like, this was never a criminal case. At best, this is a civil case between two neighbors. She found the dog. She did all this stuff to try to locate the dog's owner. The dog's owner didn't do anything herself to find her own dog. And so this was a criminal case. Why are the police getting involved in criminal cases? And so, I've made them look bad over the years. And so they have an axe to grind with me. So I think it's almost like a challenge, like, oh yeah, we're going to get her now kind of thing. And they have lost. Every one of the other cases were thrown out at the no case to answer early submission stage. And so they continue to feel like they have an axe to grind with me, like they have something to prove that will eventually get her in something, anything, it doesn't matter what it is kind of vibe. And so, they've done that, I think, to their own detriment. So yeah, so this should have been a civil case. There is, let me say this much, there is, and we may be the only jurisdiction in a non-communist country that still has defamation on the penal code. So in this country, defamation can be both a civil matter as well as a criminal matter. Yeah, it's in the penal code, section E, I think it is, of the penal code. The whole section is about the criminal charge of defamation. So even if he thought he had a defamation case, technically he could have had the police done all the legwork for him in the DPP's office, but they knew they didn't have a defamation case. And that was the problem, because they could have charged me with defamation, even criminally. It is odd. And I'll tell you what, in the UK, I'm sure they find this bizarre, that we have criminalized defamation as well as there's a civil, method of claiming that someone is libelous and stuff as well. So he didn't bring it that way. I think the police need to be mindful that there are some people who want to use the criminal system to try to penalize someone because they've either lost a civil case or they have no civil case or whatever. John Felder is doing the exact same thing. Trust and believe me when I tell you that's exactly what he's doing. That's exactly what he's doing. I'm trying to bribe you. I'm like, how can I bribe you in a civil case when the judge said, go away, get out of my office or get out of the courthouse basically, and try to settle this? How do I settle it if I don't come to you and say, okay, these are the cards that I have. I'm willing to give and take. That's the very foundation of how negotiations work. So it's bizarre that, again, the police and the DPP's office has time for me like this, trying to pursue, what we'll see. It hasn't come before the courts yet, but we'll see what happens with it. It's just very, very bizarre. But they do seem to have a lot of time for me. And even in this case at Matthew Leslie, they sent Darlene Oku or whatever the heck her name is, at me to deal with this case. And again, she was one of their better performing Crown counsels, to the point where she actually did a lot of the rape and sexual abuse cases, really, really serious cases. And it was interesting to see. She was kind of like their, what do you call it? Like a bad dog, not a hound dog. I don't want to use the term pit bull either because all my pit bull lovers are going to get insulted. But like the bad dog in the yard, she's that person from the DPP's office. So, you know, they sent her after this case and she was in there. Listen, she was telling and misleading the court with what I was talking about, like once the trial started. She even tried to get me incarcerated, like, oh, she's breaching bail because somebody told me this morning that somebody, of course, we know was the complainant. He told us this morning that, you know, she was talking about him and talking about me and talking about the judge and making the judge look bad. And I was like, what? I'm like, that actually didn't happen. She doesn't show up to court with any affidavit, no transcripts from the show, nothing. Was just there making an argument based on hearsay and asking the judge to she's breached a court order and she's breached her bail conditions, so you need to just put her in jail. The judge was like, well, I don't care what she has to say about me. And I'm like, but I didn't say anything. I mean, like, what the heck? You know, it was one of those things where, wow, when you sat there, and I know a lot of you didn't necessarily listen to it, attack dog. Thank you, Shakazul. Yeah, she was an attack dog. And she came out with all fangs, you know, and claws out and all kind of craziness. I was like, oh my God. And unfortunately, I never felt like my lawyer was equipped and on par with her to be able to really deal with her sufficiently. Damon says it's a witch hunt and they're trying to humiliate your character. Ms. Jean says, you're one tough cookie, Sandy. Thank you, ma'am. Damon says, I saw a post where Felder imported the first Tesla into Cuba. Lies. He was not the first. Listen, this man has a history, and I think I can say this without fear of contradiction. Him and Matthew Leslie have a lot of character traits that are very, very similar, but he's a geriatric version of Matthew. So if Matthew is never stopped in his life, that's what he's going to be like when he's in his 80s. Still conning people, still lying about being the first to bring in town. Listen, John Felder is a piece of work, more so than you guys will ever recognize and will ever know. He's gotten away with a lot of stuff, even in the civil proceedings. He did a whole section on how his daughter had this severely handicapped baby, poor thing, and somehow blaming that on me about how I was stressing him and his family and his wife out during this time. He took a full page. I still have the bundle, I think I can show you. Full page picture of the baby connected to all these tubes and his wife sitting in the NICU, right, with this baby in her hand, puts that in the court bundle as though that's supposed to prove something. That, oh, that's my fault because I'm publishing stuff about him, which turned out to be 100% accurate, actually. 99.9% accurate. Oh, because she's defaming me. Look at this poor. I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? Trying to play on the sympathies of the judge that, you know, oh, I'm torturing him and his family. For a child that they knew was going to be born severely disabled, the doctor, the physician actually advised his daughter against having the baby. She was advised to terminate the pregnancy because this child was not going to survive for any duration of time. And the child maybe lasted a month or two. You know, rake up all these expensive medical bills, and the pregnancy was not going to be feasible, unfortunately. The child had no longevity, but it's how he tried to play the system and put this full color photo in there of this baby connected to all these tubes and then somehow blame me and connect me to it. It's just shocking. Damien says pathological liar traits. Darlene was a horrible tenant. Oh, you know her. I get the scoop on what she did to a landlord in West Bay. Anywho, yeah, she since left the jurisdiction, thank God. But yeah, I mean, some of the things that, you know, I have had the pleasure in life to see, even with the police and the DPP's office, is really, really shocking. Damien asked a question earlier about whether or not, you know, there's a lawsuit coming. And I'm going to be honest with you, Damien, it is in the back of my mind that at some point I have got to sue the government. This is for real now. Let's talk seriously here. I've lost count of the number of cases that they brought against me. And 98% of those, like I said, have been thrown out at the no stage to answer. They've harassed me with stuff that hasn't even made it to the court, threatened me, arrested me, and then changed their mind. And, you know, it's a lot. And so I do think that at some point I've got to put together holistically what has happened since 2010 in a singular bundle and really show that there has been police mismanagement of me as an individual, and them basically harassing me with threats of prosecution, with frivolous prosecution in cases that have, for the large part, been thrown out. And the DPP's office, who ultimately are the ones who advise the police whether or not they should proceed, have pursued me in such a manner that one can only realistically think that they have an axe to grind, and this is malicious prosecution. And with every case now that we see where their stuff is getting thrown out, and the judge is like, nope, wrong. At some point, Auntie Sandy, you have to sue somebody. And when I say that, I mean multi-million-dollar lawsuit is coming your way. I don't want to do it because God knows the government might be broke already. But listen, when they have the likes of a judge who can do it and walk away with $3 million, surely I should be given some consideration too for the reputational damage and all the BS that they have been putting me through over the years. So, Damien, as much as I don't necessarily want to do it, the more important message is I have to send the message that you guys can't continue to do this to me and feel like there will be no consequences. So I am thinking about it. I am seriously contemplating, especially after this case, that it's probably time for me to sue somebody. And that somebody is going to be the police, the DPP, and the Cayman Islands government by extension. And I can tell you that when that happens, they can't come to me with no less than what they paid out the judge, the $3 million that they gave him. Because my reputation matters too. You see, they don't think so. Because they're like, oh, you're a Caymanian, you're not a judge, who cares about you, this and that, you're a lowly woman, whatever. But, you know, I have a reputation in this community to protect as well. And they have really, you know, done a number on that. I notice, you know, a lot of the comments sometimes when stuff goes up, like, oh, yeah, she's been convicted of this. And even the other day when we were talking about these people in West Bay trying to take this child that isn't theirs, the very first thing that they did was started circulating this case with Matthew. And I thought that's so interesting. And that's another reason why I stuck to this is something that I have to get overturned and have to fight for, because having a conviction over your head as someone who's in a public space, right? No matter how frivolous you think it is, I didn't go to jail or anything like that. And the very people circulating it, let me speak to my cousin here for a second, Sherry Ann. I think it's so funny that she was circulating it in her group and she had, you know, so much to say, and her and Dr. Frank, the other cousin, you know, oh yeah, you know, Sandy back in court. And I'm thinking, dudes, listen, nobody's perfect, right? I'm not here trying to be no angel, trying to elevate myself, but I'm also not a person who's ever been to jail. I've never, unlike Sherry Ann, I've never been to jail. I've never been convicted of theft. There's certain things that you can't step to me with, and honesty and taking people's money is definitely going to be one of them. And I would never, I mean, they say never, but I'm going to tell y'all here today, right? The day that I feel like I have to steal something from somebody, I'd rather go and twerk on a pole and beg for it before I would ever steal from anybody, right? She's a convicted theft. So, you know, not trying to make her feel any way about it, but for her to think that she could step to me and be trying to be like, oh yeah, well, she's got a conviction. You think people have forgotten your conviction because it was so long ago. We can go dig shit out the archives, right? Don't have me do it now, but we can go and dig stuff out of the archives. So be careful when you live in a glass house and you constantly want to be throwing rocks at people, because I'm not the kind of person that you really want to throw rocks at, because ultimately I'll pick up, y'all know me already, when I go off, I'm going to pick up a fucking boulder and throw it through your glass house. Right? You know, I ignore a lot. And when people send me stuff, there's a lot that I don't say anything about. But this was another motivation for me to get this overturned. I'm like, people like her are always going to feel like, oh yeah, you know, she got convicted of harassment. And everything she posts is harassment. Like they think they have an argument to make, when I know that they don't. So this is why what the judges will say ultimately about our freedom of speech, right? You can say stuff about people. I was never directing my comments at Matthew, to be clear. It was for the broader community. In fact, he had been blocked from the platform, so it wasn't intended for him, not at all. Right? And you have a right. If you want to say something about an MP, or you want to say someone who's put themselves out there in political office, whoever posts is about what they're doing in the community, they want all this attention, but they don't expect that people are going to scrutinize their behavior, and they don't want the negative press. It's like, come on now, you can't have it both ways. Especially when you're in a public space, your actions are open to public scrutiny. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sandy, and congratulations.
Thank you, my dear. Preliminary congratulations, but thank you.
Yeah, let me get turned off the computer here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that your case reminds me of when I was arrested back in the 80s, I think it was.
Oh.
I was arrested. I could have went to jail for 14 years, both me and my wife.
Oh my gosh.
My case was the first case of its kind after United States and England signed on our behalf. And now they can use my case because I never forget it. I quoted the jury was picked. It was so much efficient in that the officer that he was so egotistical. He just wanted to make a case because it was the first case of its kind.
Mm-hmm.
It was something to do with money laundering and stuff, and I was caught up in this. And now that I had to take responsibility because I put myself in that place. It brought me to almost committing suicide.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And the case, the jury came in that Monday morning. After about a dozen times, the stack of documents that they give to Miss pre-relievers was about 2 inches thick.
Mm-hmm.
And there was supposed to be like 14 working days. There was supposed to be like 14 working days before the case, and they give it Thursday before the case was on Monday. And after my lawyers summoned us up, the judge says, Mr. Eubanks, you have no case to answer to. And by that time, people that were supposed to be my friends didn't want anything to do with me. I went into a state of depression. Let me tell you something. It was horrible.
Wow.
So,
what a mess. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm glad. And I mean, listen, things happen to us. Sometimes we do shit. Let me just be frank. Sometimes we do things, and we've made poor decisions. I don't call them a mistake. We've made poor decisions. We have to pay for that. So if we get convicted and we go to jail, you go to jail, you have an opportunity to turn your life around. There's no, even murderers have an opportunity to turn their life around. To me, there are very few things that you can't come back from. Child molesters is probably the only exception in my book, to be honest. I can't, I deal with them on a different level. But other than that, I feel like people should understand that they have an opportunity to always, what's the word I'm looking for? To bounce back, to show that yes, that was one poor decision, but that isn't going to be my entire life story. So there's always hope. I wouldn't recommend anyone take their own lives for anything that they do. You've got to know that you can come back from these types of things. And so, I mean, it's, I'm glad that you're fine and that it all worked out in the end. Yeah. And I'm sure now that you're looking back on it, you can put it in a very different perspective.
You know what, Sandy, these are the things that if you live in the past, you don't have a present or future.
Exactly.
But thinking about your past can help you put life in perspective. And right now with the things that I've been through, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
Because I've made me what I am today.
Exactly. That's right.
And like I tell people, if God be with you, nobody can be against you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know,
yeah. No, I mean, for sure. I mean, people need to, perspective is a hell of a thing, and time and the passage of time has a way of putting a lot of perspective on things that have happened in your life. You live and learn. You make your mistakes and you learn and you move on. The people for me that I have a real axe to grind with are the people who don't live and learn, who are still doing the same shit at 50 that they were doing at 19 and 20, and they're no better off for the lessons that they've learned. But leave us there. We do have another caller calling into the program. Thank you so much, Mr. Dexter. Thank you. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Sandra.
Morning. Hey,
it's Carrie from the Bronx. I want to congratulate you.
Somebody just made me read this post. They're like, look at this one. This made me laugh. This came and brought the best island. Says there's no need. Yeah. Sherry Ann was in HMP Northwood with me, so there's your confirmation.
Her ass were there. Oh yeah, her ass was right there with me.
I didn't realize that the two of you were there at the same time, actually. So what year would that have been? I know it's been a while.
1999.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, she was there with me. She was there for the burnout, and because when we got burnt out in September of '99, that they had to move us out of there all over the place like we were nomads.
Oh,
remember
this was
that?
when there was the riot or whatever, where the men were housed.
Yeah, the men. Remember there were 4 Jamaican ladies that had came here that were couriers. One was Samantha. And Samantha had been here so long, and she kept going for her, what you call it again? When it was time for her to get released, they kept denying it. And the last time when they denied it, she should have gotten it, and she did earn it. And them guys, man, they were burning the place down because Samantha did not get released. Anyway, well, Sherry Ann and I were there, and because her matter was, I don't remember, she got released earlier because well, a few others whose matters were the time that were given to them was very short, and so they got rid of them. So she got out in the early rush with when Commissioner Thursday, he came and said they were going to release some of the women because they didn't have enough space, and one was pregnant, and oh my gosh, that was a nightmare. Do you know what? Not one counselor came to counsel us women. The only person we can thank today, and I can publicly thank her, and I've thanked her for years publicly, Miss Rose Harrelson. Miss Rose came and she said, "I'm not locking y'all down because there's fire over on the other side, and I'm not locking y'all down. They tell me you must lock y'all in yourselves, and we, the officers, must leave you in here. We would all been burned alive."
Oh my God.
And she said, "No way." And she got us out of that building. They had to cut the fence for us to come out of that building. And I remember Miss Mayanne was pregnant, good and big pregnant. We had to help her out of there, get over this fence, the barbed wire fencing that they had there. Then they took us up to Baden Town, to Civic Center, and the Baden Towners didn't want us to stay there. So they ran us out of this. So they moved us up to the East End Civic Center, and we were there a good while they decided what they were going to do with us. And then they brought us down, I think it was in April of 2000 to the Fairbanks when they put us up in that dump. All of that was so inhumane. I mean, if we could have sued the government for the inhumane way we were treated, not a counselor came talk to the women. Only one pastor, he came and started condemning us, and nobody would go listen to what he had to say. So,
wow.
But yeah, Miss Sherry Ann was there. It's all in my book, actually. I've written a book about it.
You have?
Launched. Yeah. Oh, yeah. My book is coming out within the next 30 days. It's just getting a final legal tweak on it to make sure I don't get sued, so I don't pay nobody any money.
Wow.
So, yeah. And she was there, so she can't say she wasn't there because she was there making trouble like always everywhere she goes. Anyway, I just wanted to congratulate you, and I'm glad. Your president has now paved the way for me to post back all of that immigration FOI.
Wait till the written judgment, and we're going to go through. We'll go through the written judgment and see.
When it is.
Yeah, and see exactly what it is that they say, because there are always perimeters on free speech, without a doubt. But I think what this particular trial judge was trying to do is he was trying to make the box like really, really tiny on what our rights are in this country. And I think this court is now going to expand that and say, hold on a second, not so fast. It was Justice Roger Chappell.
Oh, I heard so much shit about him. Why did we even have him in this country?
He was
Everybody
supposed to have retired.
About him.
He comes in. He comes in from the UK, but I thought he had retired actually, and then I heard that apparently he's back again. So we're so desperate for judges.
That's like Henry Graham. Henry Graham was kicked off of so many judicial boards in Africa, including South Africa, where he was originally. He has been declared a mad person. His mental declaration was that of a mad person.
Yeah.
And he came here and we gave him a job on as a justice in our Grand Court. Mm-hmm. And he sentenced me under laws that didn't even exist in our country or the UK.
Yeah.
The law of lies. Yeah. Do we have that law anywhere?
I don't think so. I mean, we have people can be held in contempt, but that hardly ever happens.
Exactly.
But the interesting is, I mean, Justice Chappell, Roger Chappell, I think is how it's pronounced, has a very long history. I mean, he was called to the bar in 1974. That's like 49 years ago, because I was like 1 year old.
So that don't mean he turned out to be better than he should have been.
He has obviously had a very lengthy career, but supposed to be retired. But I think that he's still being used as a judge of the Grand Court here in the Cayman Islands. And every so often I go in, I sit in to proceedings where he is actually overseeing, and he sees me, and I wonder if he ever thinks about if he gives this decision any significant thought, or if it's like, oh, well, he's done with that sort of thing. And I don't know how often his cases have been overturned in this jurisdiction, but there's always a first.
Well, this is what I've always said. We should have an additional commission aside from the court, independent body that reviews every ruling handed down from our courts to ensure that they're fair and not biased and prejudicial and racist. Because when I worked for Miss Levers, I mean, the amount of times that she told me about situations where she was offered money to go in favor of this or go against this. And I remember that's how I met her. I went to court and when I went and defended myself, and after the court, she saw me at the place there, not 7 Mile Shops, the other one, the Strand. And she came up to me and she was like, you stood up for yourself in my court, and that is why I ruled in your favor instead of the other party who was out there trying to convince me that you were not this person. I said, well, thank you for that. And that's how she and I became friends, But she understood that they were, she saw that the corruption in the ODPP, she knew it was there. I mean, look at what they tried to do her and put her through that whole rigmarole, and she came out smelling like a rose. And there is no area, we have nothing set up to deal with even the ODPP. And when they carry things to court, they drop things. Listen, I gave 3 statements to the RCIPS and Kim and Brack, 3 written ones. All 3 of them were rewritten and my signature forged to go against the statement. Yeah. Go against me. You think anybody is addressing that?
And let me ask, do we even have whatever happened to, remember they were supposed to have an independent body where you could report complaints about the RCIPS? Whatever happened to that?
No, that's now, they took that away from, I think it was supposed to be the Standards in Public Life Commission. I think as far as I remember, it was there we met. And then that was taken away from them and put back with the police, what their unit is for looking into their corrupt officers, what that called again, professional
standards unit. But I mean, I don't think that they have a proper mechanism, certainly not one that's external to the RCIPS, for you to be able to make police complaints. So
no, you used to, but it used to be what was it called? It was another one that they used to use for the police, but remember Smelly took that away from them and said that he wanted the courts or somebody else was supposed to deal with it themselves. I think it had to do with that. Judicial Legal Services, I think it was. was overseeing the courts, remember? And it took that away from them. So they made sure that they have got their entire clique and their entire department, the judiciary, the ODPP, and the police, they're all very in their own little clique of corruption. I'm sorry, but they're corrupt, and I'll never trust any of them. They're all corrupt. I'm sorry. I'm not saying all the judges are corrupt. I'm not saying all police are corrupt, and I'm not saying that everyone in the ODPP is corrupt, but there's too many of them that are corrupt in those three areas that are causing chaos in this country.
Unfortunately, it doesn't take much. This is the problem. This is why, they need to be above reproach, because it only takes one bad officer, as we can see, working with a friggin' murderer. Remember that case in West Bay?
Yep.
To really call the whole system into question. And we all sit back and go, how can a police officer be trying to silence witnesses and shit like this? Like this is next level. This is stuff you see in the movies and you don't even think happens in real life. And yet it's happening right here in our small little island. And it really makes everybody distrust the police, distrust the prosecution, because ultimately the prosecution has a role to play in the whole, judicial system, where it's not about getting a successful conviction at any cost. It's about ensuring that justice is served. And when they do not do that, there's actually a quote to this, and one very, very famous case. And if there's not a understanding on their part that that's what their overall role is, then the whole thing is just it's to hell with us all if that's going to be the case. So
look at Richard Clark. Remember him with My Matter? He forged the signature and told him in the court that he did that, and he told him that this is documented in the court. He told the Judge Foldax, he told him that they do that all the time, forge witness signatures. Wow. And that was in a bundle served on me. Forged statement from the police of a witness to make a statement against me. And you're going through the hell. You've gone through hell. They put me through hell. But the fuckers, sorry. Oh, I hope you're not on the radio.
No.
I am going to give them shit till I die. Yeah. They can be ready for it, because it's not going to stop until they stop. When you stop, I'll stop. How about that? Right now, work owes me over $14,000 in permit fees for grant permits I submitted through grant that they never approved. Now, when you pay the fee, you're supposed to get the money back if they don't approve it. This is before COVID, Sandra. You know what they sent me the other day? A check for $75. Because you know what the system don't have proper records there. They obviously don't. They should. And they issued the receipts, but never gave me the results of the receipts. So they should know about every receipt they issued me, that they turned down my permits. And that's the other thing, talking about in government departments, when somebody don't like you, that's what they do to you. They try to impede on your work. They try to hamper you, try to make your business look bad. You look bad. Your clients run to somebody else because you can't get your permit approved for them. So, this is the foolishness that we got to contend with. And until we clean up all of this in our government, I feel sorry for Mr. Manderson. I do, because he ain't got no world-class civil service there. That he doesn't have. Maybe there are several that are keeping it. I want to sing praises to that young lady there at work, Tonally. Oh, my God, they need to clone her. She's the most awesome employee that they have in Grand. Very helpful, very kind, and represents well. But the rest, they don't care. You put your documents in, and half the time they go missing. Stuff go missing. Even when you load it into their system, they come back and tell you it wasn't there. But that's deliberate. I see it all the time. Deliberation. All the deliberate acts against people like ourselves who make a stand, who talk, who are the voice for the people, for those who don't want to talk. We get out there and we take the licks. You take them, I take them. A few other people are taking them. But the fact is, we don't give a shit, because this is our country. We're born here. We have roots here. This is where we are. When everybody leaves, we're still here picking up the pieces they leave behind for us to pick up, and all the shortages and the shortfalls and everything. So, you know what? Yeah. Kudos to you. I praise you for doing it and going after it and getting clear priority for it. Now, when you come back with your ruling, I'm going to republish my FOI, and they can kiss my ass after that. Have a good day.
Thanks very much. I see Miss Lucille was trying to call. She's calling back. We'll take this final call of the day. Good morning, Miss Lucille.
Good morning.
Yes, my
Mr.
dear.
Dexter, tell Mr. Dexter good morning. I hope he's listening.
Yes.
When he spoke a few minutes ago, I felt his pain.
Mm.
Mr. Dexter was the person who gave me my driver's license in the Cayman Islands.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark Clark, when Mark Clark was there working, I guess everyone knew who he was. He was a corrupted, no good bastard. And he tried acting with me one time, almost sent me to prison innocent. And if anyone know him, I would ask them to do me a favor. You see where he end up? Drown. That's where he end up. Anyone know him, write a note and put it in the ocean and tell him I'm still alive under the power of God. People are so corrupted that I tell you something. I felt it. Just what Mr. Dexter say. I didn't go and do what he say he had felt like, but I felt the same way. And the old Cayman Island know it. All and pulling in Grand Court and Tony Smelly see that I was innocent. And I don't want to cry this morning as Mr. Dexter spoke. I tell you, I felt his pain for what I went through.
Oh, wow.
It's years old, I can't remember which year it is, but Mark Clark, wherever you end up, God take care of you. I'm still alive on the earth if it's even for the next couple of hours. Thank God. You all take care. Bye-bye. Love you all.
Wow.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Bye.
My goodness. Wow. What a mess. So many things going on in this country of ours. I tell you what, it's hard to believe sometimes, you know. Well, one day at a time, sweet Jesus. Unapologetic says a lot more can be and needs to be with respect to proper legal representation. Sorry. Too many money leeches sucking, too many money sucking leeches living good off the people that could have possibly won their cases. It's a shame. Well, I can tell you what, folks, good legal representation can make the world of difference without a doubt. Trust and believe me, I know this firsthand. Good morning, caller.
Morning.
Morning, Denny.
Legal, good, not bad. Good legal representation is oftentimes very expensive too.
Well, yeah.
So it depends on your circumstances. Unfortunately, some of the things that are taken to court shouldn't have to go to court.
Right.
If they were guided by the right principles, they wouldn't pursue things that are obviously they shouldn't be pursuing. And the fact that you have to go to court here, to me, is one of them, because I find it absolutely astounding that on one hand, the system says that lying is a crime, and on the other hand, it says telling the truth is a crime. Really? I want to take off my hat today to the judge who has the courage to look at this for what it is and address this issue properly. And I look forward. I'm going to do my best to get my suit pressed on Thursday, show up and hear what the judge has to say.
Yeah,
Because
I don't know how much
will
will get done on Thursday, but I can tell you I'm doing my part. So I was instructed by the panel to, meet with the legal aid representative, which I've done. I've submitted whatever paperwork she's sent me. And so I do have a KC that has said she will take the case. And you know what? Now this becomes more of like when you hear, and this is an important thing that should be mentioned, when you hear the Court of Appeals saying this is going to be a precedent-setting case that impacts the law in the Cayman Islands, not just for this person, but for everybody in that country, lawyers, they sit up and they pay attention. And, all of a sudden, people who might not have given you the time of day previously are going to be like, wow, they want to be part of the arguments and the decisions that is going to go down in the law books in legal history. And so I think that that's important as well, because you do get people who like, oh, I don't think this is an important case. But once the judges say it is an important case, it's a very important case for constitutional freedoms in your country, then everybody starts to pay attention. And in fact, I had someone yesterday who said, oh my God, I would love to sit as the second seat junior counsel on this case, because everybody's going to want their name to go down in the law books. But, you know, I had to say to that person, honey, chill. I already have Amelia. She's been riding with me for a minute now. So we're good. We're good. But yeah, I mean, you know, that's just how it works as well.
Well, the fact that some people in government view our rights as being almost nothing, it should be very disturbing to all of society.
Yeah.
And whether it's a judge making the wrong decision or whether it's a prosecutor prosecuting for the wrong reason, whether it's the premier who dislikes your show, you know, when they take action, they need to be cognizant that their actions don't step on our rights.
Yeah.
And I think it's very, very important that it be understood that freedom of expression be recognized for how valuable it really is. Because think about this for a second. If there's a disagreement among segments of society over an issue, you can do one of the two things. You can either sit down and we can talk about it and we can fight with our words, or we can physically fight and kill each other. Right? And some of the issues are so serious that if you're not able to resolve them by a reasonable means, they will result in an unreasonable action.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so,
and that's one of the things, Denny, that I always say, even on this show and this platform, right? Because we help people recover money and try to solve disputes and all sorts of stuff. And I often say to people, you know, you might not like what we do or how we do it or whatever, but the alternative is people are getting frustrated. They're getting upset. Employees are not being paid. One of these days, they're going to be like, I'm going to go after my employer. Like, we're trying to help prevent that shit from happening. Right? So we're like, let's talk about it. Let's make a phone call. Let's see if we can put community pressure on people to do the right thing, as opposed to an individual one day just losing their shit and going ape crazy in somebody and harming somebody or worse.
Yeah. Then that is why the freedom of expression is so fundamental to every single thing we do. And what the judge who ruled in your case did was an injustice to our society. And I want to thank the current judge dealing with your matter for the courage to correct it. Take care.
Thanks, Denny. Appreciate it. All right, folks. So, yeah, on Thursday, I'm not sure how much will be done, to be quite honest. But we will certainly go from there. Kim and Brock says Amelia's brilliant. You're in good hands. Love her. So yeah, she will be sitting as junior to the KC, because the other thing that was interesting is the judge actually said they want not just a lawyer, not just a criminal lawyer, they actually want a senior, meaning a KC criminal lawyer to deal with this, who has some higher level expertise, especially when it comes to constitutional law arguments and stuff like that. So very, very directed in what they were actually saying yesterday as well. Thank you, Unapologetic. Shaka says, I totally agree with Uncle Denny. What this takes, with his take, on the people's rights. She appears so, but she ain't. She's one of those leeches, says Unapologetic. Who are we referring to? Unapologetic. Damien says they can prop up or make you look like a villain through repetitive programming and certain words. It gets embedded into your subconscious. Shaka Zula says, yes, sir. This resorting to violence happens in other jurisdictions across the world. Absolutely. People right in Jamaica killing each other over 2 crab backs. It's like, you know, if those people felt like they could get justice and they could talk about it and resolve this, like, oh, you owe me $12 more for the 3rd crab back or whatever, no sensible person is going to resort to stabbing somebody up and killing somebody over a frigging crab back. But when people are constantly in a system where they feel like the police don't care, they get no justice, that, you know, that is when you have people feeling like, well, I'm not even going to call the police anymore. I'm going to just take matters into my own hands. So very, very sad indictment in a lot of societies around the world. I mean, look at poor America. What a hot mess they're in with the constant violence, you know, guns now being the number one killer of young people. Just so shocking and unbelievable. All right, folks. Thank you guys so much. We went into a little bit over time. I got to get Miss GT to her doctor's appointment so we can go see what's going on with that little ankle of hers. Hopefully it's not too bad. So she's out of school today, and we're going to try to get her some assistance with that. And hopefully, you know, somebody said do the old brown paper bag with vinegar treatment. So we'll have an x-ray done, and hopefully there's no like torn ligaments or tendons or anything like that. It's just a little minor sprain. We can ice it, continue to ice it, and just got to stay off of it, which you guys know with kids, it's tough. You know, they injure themselves and they still want to be trying to run up and down. It's like, whoa, you got to take it easy. So we'll see what they prescribe. They probably have to give her some meds and stuff as well. All right, good folks. Thank you for tuning in. I know we didn't get to cover some of the other topics that we had. I wanted to talk about the Indian immigration scammer. So let's touch on that tomorrow. And I think there's a couple other things that were popping up in the news. So a number of appeals actually got turned down. Renato Harris, his appeal got denied. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. I don't know what his grounds were, but he needs to stay in jail. The dude is bad news, honey child. Bad news. You don't go around raping people and think that you're going to be out in tutus. I think the judge in that case sent a very clear message. The nature of the sexual assault. There was actually 2 counts of rape. Let's keep that in mind, that he was charged with. So good decision there, in my opinion. Anyway, yes, we'll continue to keep you guys updated, obviously, on a lot of what's going on in the courts. And it's important for, you know, one of the reasons why I cover as well what's happening in the court's office is, in my estimation, it is important that the people know what's happening. Although court is open, very many of you have the time or desire, energy, or whatever to go and show up at court. And so I think that it's important to do so and to at least know what's happening in the judiciary, because these things impact all of our lives. Or decisions that are being made in the court every single day that you guys should probably be more concerned about. So we try to bring those to life here on this platform by way of educating you all on what's actually happening. All right, good folks. Thank you very, very much. And wishing you guys have an absolutely wonderful day and be safe. And we'll be back here tomorrow morning, 7:30, bright and early. Gabby says, any update on the woman trying to recruit teens and asking for pictures? Unfortunately not. I'll check with the police to see if they've made any headway with their investigations. Marshall says, thank God they turned down Renato's case. I can tell you his victim must feel the exact same way about that as well. All right. See you guys tomorrow. Have a good day.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels. And visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.